running from the bad guy. I'ma stare him in the eye like, what's up?
Everyone, and welcome to another episode of Insights of a Survivor. When I tell you guys I barely made it, oh my goodness. So before we get started, let me start off with a trigger warning, okay? The episode tonight is going to contain it just went off. Honest and emotionally intense discussions about trauma, grief, loss, exploitation in the healing spaces, and the emotional toll of being a survivor in a system that often fails to support us. Some stories shared may be activating for listeners who have experienced similar pain. Please prioritize your mental health and your emotional safety. And if at any point you feel overwhelmed, take a break, reach out for for support from a trusted system, or return if or when you're ready to, because you don't really have to come back here again. You don't have to prove anything. Your healing is and you need to make sure that you're the one that's taking care of yourself. Then take care of yourself. It's not gonna hurt my feelings. It's not gonna make me feel like you're not. You have to take care of yourself. So take care of yourself. You're not alone. You're not weak for needing care, and you're deeply, deeply worthy of that support. So again, everyone, I want to welcome you all to Insights of a Survivor, where we speak the truth. We speak the truth that survivors carry, even when the world wants us to stay silent, and even when we have to speak that within our own community, because sometimes, hey, it is what it is. This isn't your typical feel-good podcast. This is a space where the raw, the messy, and the unfiltered truth gets a seat at the table. Because healing isn't always soft. It's not always shareable or pretty. And tonight's episode is exactly that. It's personal, it's uncomfortable, and it's necessary. We're going to dive deep into the emotional, financial, and spiritual toll that comes with building a healing platform like this from scratch, especially when that platform is rooted in your pain, especially when it's born from your trauma, especially when the very people who you're trying to help are the ones who sometimes don't even show up for you in return. We need to talk about the lie that we're sold, the illusion that if we just keep pushing, just stay consistent, just serve from the heart, that will eventually break through. But what happens when that support never shows up? What happens when you've poured everything into a movement meant to heal others, but then you're left holding the burden alone? So let me set the tone for you. When I started this, I wasn't even trying to become a brand. I wasn't trying to have a podcast. I wasn't trying to um, all these events, everything. I wasn't looking for clout. I wasn't chasing a blue check or trying to go viral at all. I started this journey as a grief and trauma coach, a survivor who had buried her own child. Well, I cremated my son, but I had lost my own child and knew what it felt like to want to scream, to have no one to hear you. I wanted to create a space for people like me, people who weren't just hurting but drowning, who didn't see themselves in the polished, filtered healing journeys being sold online. My mission was simple: help those who've been through it, help those who are still in the fire, help those who are holding on to grief like second skin. But what I didn't realize was this space, this so called healing industry, is not built for people like me. I learned quickly that unless you can afford to pay someone thousands of dollars to mentor you, to elevate your brand, to position your platform, to make those connections for you, you're disposable, because you have to be able to pay that. You're treated like you're not serious, like your story, your struggle, your purpose has no value because your pockets don't match the people already in that seat, already in power. Excuse me, already in power. What I've witnessed in this past year was heartbreaking. I've seen how people will love you as long as you're giving, as long as you're pouring, as long as you're providing content, encouragement, design, strategies for free. But the moment you need that same energy back, that same support, that same free investment, they vanish. And what's worse, it's not always strangers. Sometimes it's the very people you believed would be the what you believed in, and the ones you boosted up, you reposted, you created for, you collaborated with. They love you as a giver, but resent you when you ask for that to be reciprocated. And I won't lie, it hurts. It hurts your feelings. It made me question myself. It makes me want to just throw it all away some days because I'm still out here fighting to be seen, fighting for my voice to matter, fighting to make space for those who feel invisible. And I'm learning the hard way that no matter how powerful your message is, if it doesn't come with a price tag or a platform behind it, or an influence or people who they know, no matter what your message is, people will overlook you. They'll write you off and they'll treat you like a passion project instead of a purpose driven movement. And that's the part. That's the part that cuts deepest. Not just the lack of support, but the constant, quiet invalidation. The way people ignore your work unless it benefits them. The way they treat you like you're too intense, too raw, too much. But I'm not too much. I'm just telling the truth in a world that only wants healing to be marketable. And despite everything, despite the exhaustion, the discouragement, the emotional labor that nobody pays for, I haven't walked away. And I won't, because I survived things that should have killed me. I've walked through hell with grief clinging on my back. And if I could survive that, I can survive this too. I didn't come this far to be silenced by algorithms or abandoned by people I once showed up for. I came to speak. I came to build, to keep going even when it feels like no one sees me. Because someone does. Someone is watching. Someone is listening. Someone needs to know they're not alone. And that is who I show up for. So I'll leave you with this question. And you let this sit in your spirit. Let it echo and let it echo back to you. Is this really a revolution for survivors and truth tellers? Or are we out here surviving the system all over again? Just wearing empowerment hoodies now. Because that's what it feels like on some days. On some days, that's what it feels like some days. Like we escaped one system just to be trapped in another. Like we're repackaging our pain for platforms that weren't built to hold us. But the revolution isn't dead. It's just waiting for us to stop asking for permission to be powerful. And I'm ready. Are you? So first we're going to talk about the behind the scenes part of it, the doing the work. People see this platform, but what they don't see is the process. They don't see that not only do I have to write my material and perform for you guys, or not even perform because I don't perform. Whatever I do is just going to be my authentic self, but show up for you guys. They don't see that I also have that 365-day empowerment challenge that I have to do every single day. And outside of a blackout that caused me to lose my internet, I have not missed one day. They don't see the other people that I work with, that I'm doing projects with, that I have to do my part for. And yes, I'm not going to lie, sometimes I get the bulk of the workload, but I don't mind because I know it's for a better purpose. They don't see what happens behind it. They see a polished podcast episode, as polished as I can get it, a well-timed Instagram reel, which I haven't even had time to do, or empowering captions. But they don't see what the cost is to get there. They don't see the nights that I lay on the floor crying between edits, or how long it took for me to muster up the courage to press record on something. They don't know that my healing content isn't a performance. It's my lifeline. That every story I share cracks me open a little more. They don't see that every post isn't for clout or clicks. It's an act of survival. Not I'm not just building my brand. I'm trying to build a place where others don't like you don't feel invisible. The process is lonely, it's ugly, and it's raw. There's no applause for the countless hours it takes to bring my truth to life. Just my hope, just for me to hope that someone who needs to hear it will hear it. And being that the platform is a person who's still hurting, still healing, instead of holding it all together with trembling hands. Me editing videos at 2 a.m. with swollen eyes from crying because the story that I told isn't just ancient history, it still aches. I'm writing captions through my trauma responses, recording episodes through my anxiety, showing up on camera while I am barely holding together behind the scenes. I'm figuring out lighting, sound, thumbnails, captions, promoting myself, and I don't have a team. I am my team. I'm wearing every hat. I am the host, the editor, the social media manager, the writer, the designer. I make my own flyers, my own videos, my own commercial brands. I am a mental health survivor. People see the highlight reels and assume that I have it all figured out. But the truth is, I'm often hanging on by a thread. And there are days when my healing work feels like it's a burden instead of a gift because it forces me to reopen wounds. And some of them, they haven't even fully scarred yet. Then there's the tech, the daily war with algorithms, broken mics, my headphone is breaking, the platform that suppress vulnerable content in favor of viral trends. I pour my heart into a 10-minute video, sometimes 20. I get about 10 views. I post something real, something beautiful, something powerful, and the algorithm buries it beneath dance challenges and gossip clips or people who have so many followers. And it's not just frustrating, it's heartbreaking because every time my story gets silenced or unseen, it feels like my pain didn't matter. I try to tweak my hashtags, repost at different times, and even pay for promotion. I've paid for promotion, but it still feels like I'm screaming into a void. The emotional labor of staying consistent while feeling ignored is unlike anything else. And yet I keep going. I keep showing up, even when no one seems to notice, because my purpose is louder than silence. And here's the most honest truth that I can give you. There's no team. There's no PR. Again, there's just me, my story, and my motivation, and my hope, and my prayer that someone will hear it and feel less alone. That's what it really is. It's not strategy. It's not branding. It's not viral moments. I have yet to go viral. It's a cry for connection in a world that thrives on disconnection. And here's the reality. You're not trying to influence. You're trying to reach, trying to touch someone's pain with your own and remind them that healing is possible, even if it's messy, even if it's slow, even if it doesn't look like what the world expects. And when someone messages you and says, "Thank you, I needed this," that one sentence becomes your paycheck, your fuel, your validation, and the part that people don't see. But it's the part that keeps you breathing. It's the part that keeps me breathing. So if you're listening to this right now and you've ever tried to build something from your pain, to turn your trauma into a purpose, I want to hear from you. Please message me, comment, tell me what's been the hardest part of starting your platform or doing your healing work. Let's talk about this stuff that no one claps for. The behind the scene breakdowns, the doubt, the exhaustion, and the grace it takes to keep going because you're not alone in this. And the more we speak the truth behind the strength, the more we give others permission to do the same. And next, I'm going to talk about the myth of community uplifting. We're constantly sold the dream of community uplift. We're told that there's room for everyone, that this space, especially in the healing and empowerment world, is about love, unity, collaboration, and mutual growth. But underneath that glossy exterior is far more complicated. What we're rarely prepared for is the sharp sting of gatekeeping that hides behind those friendly smiles and community hashtags. The illusion that inclusive that of inclusive that the illusion of inclusivity, the inclusiveness is strong, but it is just an illusion. And if you're not careful, it will keep you chasing validation in spaces that were never designed to hold you. There's a deep hypocrisy in how many platforms reach empowerment but operate like exclusive clubs with velvet ropes guarding access to visibility, collaboration, and resources. The message may sound like "let's rise together," but the unspoken rule is only if you can pay the price of admission. Let's name it for what it is: gatekeeping wrapped in a healing bow. So many of us, so many of the established voices is the space. Okay, so many of the established voices in this space The one who cried for help, who begged to be heard, and now have become the very barriers that they used to rage against. I'm sorry, it's annoying, and I get triggered, so I lose myself. So basically, what I am saying is that people who were where we are, who had to fight and climb and beg to be heard, have now become the same ones that block them, the ones that they used to feel anger for, the ones that came to them the same way they come to those in our situation. They'll only mention your name if there's a fee attached, a sponsor package, or a partnership that benefits them more than it uplifts you. I had someone tell me that they knew someone who was influential that could have skyrocketed my career, and all I had to do was pay him $5,000. And even if I didn't have the $5,000, give him a number, any number, and he'll work with that because he knows by the end of the week I'll have the rest of the money and I'll pay it to him. And when I told him the number that I had, and it wasn't even $1,000, I don't know how much it was because I don't have that type of money on hand. It was just like I mean, okay, well, whenever you get it, let me know. Don't miss this opportunity. And it only gave me 3 days to come up with this, and I tried. I created GoFundMe's. I asked. I tried, and the community, they didn't hear me. I had two people. Two people did the best that they could, which is what I offered, but that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough. So again, they'll mention your name and they'll make those connections with you with a fee attached. Their inboxes are flooded with people asking how to get a foot in the door. And rather than opening the door, they built paywalls. People who used to shout out, visibility shouldn't cost you your dignity, are now sending invoices to guests to be on their platforms. It's not a collaboration, it's capitalism in a trauma colored suit. This is where the betrayal cuts deep. The myth of we rise together is often just a brand strategy and is weaponized in kindness. It's a curated aesthetic of care that collapses the moment you ask for support without a budget. The space that should feel safe becomes transactional. Free summits that promise healing and unity end up charging speakers who are the most vulnerable, asking survivors to pay their share for pain, for someone else's profit. I've been invited to speak at inclusive events only to find that I had to create my own marketing, promote my event myself, build my own slides, and basically run my own segment and without any real support. I've been asked to pour my heart into someone else's stage without while they sold access to the pain behind the tickets at the door. And that's not community. That's exploitation. Now let me back that up. Charging a fee to speak, 10,000, 15,000, $5,000 to speak versus charging someone $90, $70 so that you can pay for the promote and you're offering the promotional package. To me, that's different than telling someone that they have to promote themselves. And then you still got to pay me $1,600. I've been told I had to pay $5,000 to speak just for a shout out, $350 just to have not even 2 minutes for someone to say my name. And did I get anything from that? No. And let's talk about the word collaboration because that word has been hollowed out with and repackaged into something unrecognizable. True collaboration is mutual. It's built on respect, transparency, and shared effort. But too often, collaboration in these circles mean do all the work and we'll take all the credit. I've been in spaces where I was invited to into rooms only to realize that I wasn't there to be uplifted. I was there to be used. I have real collaborations right now with people who I work with who do just as much and put just as much as themselves into this mission and into this revolution and into this community as I do. And I love those people. I love working with those people. My story was the raw material someone else needed to polish their brand. But the people I work with right now, we're polishing each other's brand. My name was added to a flyer, diversity, to add diversity. But I was never compensated, credited properly, or given the space to lead. I've watched people steal ideas and rebrand them as their own. All while preaching authenticity. So no, we're not always rising together. Sometimes we're being stepped on so someone else can climb higher. And here's the hard question. We all need to sit with it. Why is healing being sold back to us by people who once begged for someone to hear them for free? Why are those who screamed for visibility now hoarding it like currency? Why is pain a commodity unless you're already verified? Why why is that space? Why is it that okay, why is it that in a space, there we go. Why is it that in a space created to break silence and honor truth, the only voices that can get amplified are the ones that can afford to be heard? So why is it that the space that is created to break silence and honor truth are only have space for those who can afford to be heard? It's a brutal cycle. And those of us who dare to be raw, vulnerable, and unpolished are often left out. We're left out of the healing industry because we're not digestible enough. We don't fit the aesthetics. We are too angry, too messy, too real. And unless we can afford to package that page into something monetizable, into a monetizable brand, we're locked out of the very rooms that we were told that we belonged in. And this is why so many of us are building our own platforms from scratch, brick by brick, tier by tier, because the community we thought we were joining often didn't want us unless we were profitable. So we create our own spaces, not because we don't believe in community, but because we believe in it so much that we refuse to accept the watered down version we were handed. We believed in a community that doesn't require payment to be seen. We believe in healing that doesn't come with a subscription model. We believe that real collaboration means holding the door open without checking, okay, someone's followers count or their bank balance. Without. So to everyone who's listening to me tonight, if you've ever felt shut out, overlooked, or exploited by the very people who claim to uplift, you're not crazy. You're just waking up to the reality that not every healing space is safe, and not every invitation is a blessing. But don't let that stop you. Keep building, keep speaking, keep calling out, because real change doesn't happen in rooms that sell access. It happens when we start tearing those rooms down and creating something better in their place. So the exploitation of survivors in healing spaces. So let's talk about something that we're not supposed to say out loud. The exploitation of survivors in a so-called healing space. Because while the language of healing, empowerment, and inclusion gets thrown around like glitter, what happens behind closed doors is often far more insidious. People don't always want to uplift other survivors. They want to use us. They want the grit of our stories without the power of our voices. They want to feature our trauma for emotional impact, for aesthetics, for fundraising, or for rawness. But the moment we speak with authority, set boundaries, or ask for investment in our platforms, we're met with silence or worse, just straight up dismissal. There's this disturbing trend that I've witnessed again and again. People crave your pain, but they don't want your leadership. They want you to spill your story, to cry on cue, to bleed in front of their audience so they can point to it and say, look how powerful healing is. But they don't want to center you. They don't want to pay you. They don't want to promote your work unless it's benefiting their bottom line. They'll post your quote, but not your website. They'll show your trauma clip, but not your healing program. You become a moment of inspiration on their page, not a voice with value, with vision, and with the right lead to the very conversations. I'm sorry, to the very conversations they build their careers on. And here's something that I've had to sit with. Sometimes I feel like people just want to collect survivor stories like trophies, but they don't actually want to create space for us to lead. They want you to say, "Look at this amazing survivor I platformed," but they don't want you sitting at the table planning with them. They want to put your face on a flyer, but they don't want to ask your opinion on the event structure. They want to feature you during Domestic Violence Awareness Month, Sexual Assault Awareness Month, or Mental Health Awareness Month, but come to other 11 months, the other 11 months, there's silence. They disappear. They want survivors to perform pain, but not hold power. And that's not community, that's exploitation. I remember one event in particular that still leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. I was invited to speak on a trauma and resilience panel hosted by an organization that had a six-figure budget. I was told how I was going to inspire my work and how my story could really move people. I poured my soul into preparing. I offered resources, created a deeply vulnerable presentation, and even helped to promote a little bit. And when the panel ended, they thanked me, but that was it. Not even a small honor, no nothing. It was it. And worse, I later found out that therapists on the same panel were paid. So were the organizational reps, but not the survivors. Our stories were considered gifts, something we could use to share. Our trauma was a prop for their programming. And when I politely inquired about anything, compensation, investment, sponsoring of my stuff, they said, "Oh, we thought that you were just grateful for the opportunity." And that was it. That cut me because what what they were really saying was, we see your pain as content, not as labor, not as worth. I've also been tokenized in spaces that claim to be about lifting up Black voices in the BIPOC trauma, Black, Indigenous, People of Color, BIPOC, and the intersectional healing. But the only time I was asked to speak was when they needed a raw voice, not a polished one, not a strategic one. They didn't want any part of me as a builder, an organizer, a creator. They wanted the pain that made people feel something, but only for a moment, only for a campaign, only for optics. The moment I wanted to have a deeper conversation about sustainability, ownership, or investment in marginalized survivors, they ghosted me. That's the moment. That's the unspoken contract in many of these healing spaces. Bleed for us, but don't ask us to share the table. And I'm not in this alone. I know of countless of other survivors who share similar stories, survivors who asked to share a few words with no context or care, they've been asked to relive their trauma for free, while others walk away with ticket sales and brand growth. We're applauded for our bravery, but the moment we speak with power, we're too much, too direct, too emotional, too angry. But how can you ask someone to spill their soul and not expect them to show rage, the rage that comes with it? This is part of healing. This is the part that people don't want to deal with. They want to sanitize survival. They want the easy pain, the easy pain. They want a perfectly packaged breakdown, but not messy, ongoing reality of what it takes. They don't want to see that. They just want us to be cute. So I want to take a moment, just a second, to just take a breath. Let's just sit and carry the weight, because I need a break. Okay, I'm back. If you're listening to this and you've ever felt like your story was used, like you were praised for your trauma, like you were dismissed in your truth, please know you're not alone. There's nothing wrong with you wanting more. You are allowed to expect respect. You are allowed to ask for compensation. You're allowed to ask for support, something. Like, if you don't want to compensate me, help me grow my brand. Help me grow my audience. Help me introduce me to make those connections something. You are allowed to demand spaces that center your healing and not your pain. And you are allowed to lead. You are allowed to, because this work doesn't belong to institutions. It belongs to people who've lived it. The people still healing, the people still rising, the survivors, us. So the cost of trying to lift others up. So I'm going to talk about something that's really heavy. And that really gets addressed in public because it makes people uncomfortable. And that's burnout. Not the kind of burnout from work deadlines or lack of sleep, but the soul deep exhaustion that comes from constantly pouring into others while no one seems to notice that you're running on empty. Ah, this is the cost of trying to lift others while you're still trying to keep your own feet on solid ground. As a healer, a truth teller, a survivor, using your platform to hold space for others, you become a place where people go to feel seen, supported, and heard. But where do you go? Who becomes that space for you? Every day you show up, you live, you go. You go live, you post, you write, you speak, you host events, you facilitate conversations, you try to hold emotional space for a community that's hurting while you yourself are often in pieces. You've learned how to be present even when you're falling apart inside. You've learned how to speak hope even when you're drowning in doubt. And you do it without hesitation because you believe in the purpose of all of it. You believe in the power of your story and you believe in the impact you can have. But it comes with a cost. It costs you your energy. It costs you your time. It costs you your emotional bandwidth. And when you finally look up, hoping for even the smallest amount of reciprocation, any type of support, you hear crickets. There is a specific kind of heartbreak that comes from realizing the people you've been over backwards to support do not show up for you. The people you have promoted, created flyers for, tagged, reposted, featured on your podcast, shouted out in your lives. They don't even watch your challenges. They don't even watch your content. They won't even send you a referral. They won't even look your way. Something that they could be doing for free. Something that costs them nothing but time. You've had private messages where people poured out their hearts and you stop doing everything to be there for them. But then when you ask them for a share, a comment, a little encouragement, it's silence. It's like your value only existed when you were giving. And that realization can shatter you if you're not grounded in your why. And here's a quote that says deep in my chest. They'll clap for your vulnerability as long as it doesn't make them uncomfortable. You hear that? They will clap for your vulnerability as long as it doesn't make them feel uncomfortable. As long as you're digestible, as long as you're inspiring in a surface level, the way they'll support you. But the moment your truth exposes something too raw, too inconvenient, too real, they'll distance themselves. Your pain becomes too heavy. Your call to action becomes too demanding. Your boundaries become too much. And you begin to realize that what people actually wanted wasn't your healing, it was your performance of pain. But you're not here to perform, you're here to transform yourself, your community, and the narrative around what it means to be a survivor and a leader. So here's my truth. Every single day I fight to get my challenges out. These challenges are live, real time, no filter, no edits. You guys have been seeing me stumble over my words this entire time. Nothing. I have to push myself to be emotionally present, even when I'm physically or mentally worn out, which I am. I have been sitting at this computer for days, doing lives, interviews, podcast promotions, whatever I needed to do. And I am physically and mentally worn out, which is why after this, you guys will not see me until Monday. Oh, no, but beside my lives, my challenges are going to always come every day. But that's 20 minutes, and I got you. And half the time I want to quit. I want to stop. I want to say, you know what, I'm done. I want to use the degrees that I earned and get a job, pay for that will help just get me out of whatever stressful situation I might be in right now because I focus so much time into this that I don't have time for anything else. I feel like I have given everything to this platform, my voice, my vulnerability, my creativity. I've poured into people. I've made flyers, created content, offered resources, responded to DMs at 2 a.m. and gone above and beyond to help our community. And I've heard over and over how much I'm helping. I've been told that I'm changing lives, and still I sit in discouragement because some of the very people that I've gone hard for won't even take 2 minutes to engage with the work I've created, work that could uplift them in some way or another. That hurts. It makes me angry. It makes me want to disappear. But I remember who I started this for. And I remember who I was when I started this. I remember the woman who felt invisible, alone in voices, and I didn't start this for applause. I started it for her. And no matter how tired I get, no matter how many people let me down, I know I'm reaching someone, and that one person makes it worth it. Still, I'm human, and the emotional weight of consistently being told, being the one to hold space, with no one holding space for you can be unbearable. Sometimes you can find yourself giving and giving while quietly wondering who even knows that you need something too. You post reminders about mental health, but yours is on the verge of collapse. You talk about community care, but your inbox is full of requests, not check ins. You become known for being the strong one, the consistent one, the voice of truth. And suddenly, there's no room for humanity, no room for your silence, your breakdowns, your rest. People expect you to always be on, always be uplifting, always be accessible. But they forget that behind this platform is a person who does need rest, a person who does get discouraged, a person who sometimes just wants someone to say, hey, how are you doing? So I ask this question, and it's not just for me, for all of us who are doing this work. Who supports the healers? Who checks in on the ones doing the checking in? Who just shows up for the leaders when they're too tired to lead? Who gives without asking when the givers have nothing left to give? Because if we don't start having a real conversation about the toll of emotional labor in these spaces, we will burn out the very people who are holding the light. And we cannot afford to lose that light right now. That light, not now, not ever. So to my fellow healers, truth tellers, advocates, and survivors who are pouring into others while fighting their own storms, please know that you are seen. You're not weak for needing support. You are not selfish for setting boundaries, and you are not alone in your exhaustion. It's trust and believe I am exhausted. You deserve the same care you freely give to others. So let's remind each other that healing isn't just something we offer, it's also something we deserve. So the problem with healing as a business as a whole, let's pull back the curtain on something that's been heavy on my heart for a while in this healing. It's the way we market healing, commodifying healing, because we need to say it. Healing should be sacred, not sold in pieces. It should be rooted in community, truth, care, storytelling, and reciprocation. But in today's world, healing isn't being packaged. It's being branded and sold like a lifestyle product. It's no longer about deeply holding spaces or witnessing someone else's transformation. It's about marketability, about who has the prettiest website, the slickest funnel, the most polished video testimonials. Healing has turned into a business model and has created this warped reality where your trauma is only holding value if it can be turned into a product, where your visibility as a survivor is dependent on your access to the marketing teams and algorithm strategy, not the truth or impact of your story. And let's be real. This shift hasn't just changed how people experience healing. It changes who gets to be heard. These days, if you don't have a 5K coaching package, a brand story, and a professional photographer, your voice gets drowned. The raw, messy, gut-wrenching healing that many of us are doing day by day in real time gets ignored for more curated, digestible versions, and that's dangerous. It creates this hierarchy of healing where those with resources rise to the top and those in the thick of it gets left behind. The people who need support the most can't afford access with these programs. And the people who started out saying, I want to help people, have slowly turned into polished entrepreneurs whose offerings are more about aesthetics than authenticity. And meanwhile, the rest of us are out here trying to figure out how to share the truth without being swallowed by the machine. Here's a truth, Brom, that's hard to swallow. Some of us are trying to heal the world. Others are just trying to sell it back in packages of $5,000 or more. And that's the real brutal line between mission and marketing. That so many people, they have really just crossed that line. And I say this with no judgment because I understand the struggle. We all have to survive. We all need to pay bills. We need to keep our lights on to feed our family. But at what point does survival turn into exploitation? At what point do we stop being healers and start becoming salespeople to sell each other's pain? The pressure is real. You get told you need a niche, you need a funnel, you need at least, you need a 10,000, you need a 10-week high ticket offer. That's what it is, a 10-week high ticket offer. And you sit here wondering if there was rawness, if the rawness that of your lived experience even fits into this mold. You wonder if your truth is enough or if it has been branded to be seen. This is the part of the conversation where people most avoid how hard it is to walk the line between purpose and profit. Because again, I do believe in profitability to a point. I should not have to pay $5,000 to be introduced to someone who's going to probably then ask me to pay them $5,000. Between integrity and industry, between helping and hustling, I've wrestled with this over and over. And I've had my moments where I've needed to monetize my work to keep going because running a platform, producing a podcast, organizing events, editing videos, promoting, creating, showing up, it all takes resources. And yet I've sat in the discomfort of wondering if charging for a course even makes me, if it makes a course or an event makes me complicit in the very system that ignores me. I never want to become what hurt me. I never want to exploit people's need for hearing or make them feel like their transformation is dependent on their ability to pay. But I also know that I deserve to be sustained. And so does every person doing this work. And that tension is real. And it's constant. It becomes especially painful when you see others who are further along in their business journey, people who started in the same with the same intentions as you, but now gatekeep healing behind a four-figure program with language that makes the everyday person feel inadequate for not investing in themselves. Like, okay, the healing industry has become aspirational. If you want to heal, if you want to heal, they said you'll make an investment. But healing shouldn't be a luxury. It shouldn't be something you have to qualify for. It shouldn't be filtered through branding, consultants, and sarcastic, I can't say that word, and certain tactics. I know that I'm really bad with words, you guys. So again, and I am also very exhausted. This is my fourth time on this computer. We need to be asking better questions. We need to be building systems of support that don't require people to perform, to purchase, or to pretend in order to be included. Now, I will ask you, is there a way to honor our story, make a living, and stay real? Or does the system make that impossible? Can we create models that allow healers to thrive without turning trauma into a sales pitch? Can we enter a community? Can we center community care and collective healing in a world obsessed with branding? I believe we can, but not if we're afraid to talk about it. Not if we keep pretending the system isn't broken. We have to have the courage to name it, challenge it, and we build something different, something sacred, something rooted in truth. Because the healing is not a product, it's not a package, it's not a 90-day rollback with guaranteed results. Because first of all, you can't guarantee anything. Just putting that out there. And healing is messy. It's really messy. It's deeply human. And those of us who survive the worst of it, we know you can't market your way to transformation. You have to feel it. You have to live it. You have to fight for it. So let's fight for a world where healing isn't just a commodity, but a right. a reality, a revolution. So before I close, I want to say this was very intense, and understanding that sometimes people can get discouraged and even depressed. I want to leave a resource for those of us who need support, which is a crisis text line. Text home to 741-741 for 24/7 support in the US. I'm still looking for one in other countries. I will find one because we need someone to vent to. We need someone who's going to let us speak. We need someone who's going to hear us without a $5,000 price tag on it. Oh, that was a lot, you guys. So thank you, truly. Thank you for sitting in this truth with me tonight. This wasn't easy. It wasn't an easy conversation at all. It wasn't soft or sugar coated. It was layered, painful, honest, but it was necessary. These are things that linger in our hearts long after the camera shut off, after the screen goes dark. These are conversations we often have alone and quiet, wondering if anyone else feels it too. Yes. So if you stayed with me until this moment, I want you to know I don't take that lightly. There is sacredness in being witnessed and being held through discomfort instead of bypassed with false positivity. And maybe, just maybe, you needed this conversation as much as I did. Maybe you've been walking around carrying the same frustration, that same fatigue, that same ache to be heard without being used. And that if that's you, then please know you're seen. We covered some heavy ground tonight. The emotional toll of doing this work, the exploitation that happens in the name of healing, the disillusionment with systems that claim to support us but often silence or excludes us, especially if we don't have the money that they're asking for. And through all of that, I want to leave you with something stronger than bitterness. I want to leave you with conviction because we are not meant to shrink just to survive a system that was never built to hold truth. We were not meant to contort our pain to digestible narratives to be consumed, judged, or monetized by people who've never walked out in our shoes. No more shrinking, no more softening the edges. Just to be accepted is not even necessary. You were not meant to be digestible. You were meant to be disruptive. That's where your power lies. So let me say this clearly for anyone who's ever felt pressured to perform their healing for someone else's comfort. My voice will not be silenced by the industry. This work is personal, it's generational, it's spiritual. It's not a brand strategy. It's not marketing funnels. It's not content, it's life. It's pain and power colliding in real time. And you have every right to hold on to your truth with pride, with clarity, and with boundaries. If this system ever honors us, we will honor each other. We will still honor each other. We will still rise. We will still create, and we will still tell our stories on our terms, in our voice, in our time. So here's what I ask of you now. If this episode moved something in you, if it stirred up a truth you've been holding back, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. DM me your truth. What resonated? What made you pause? What cracks open something? Comment below if this hits somewhere deep. Tag someone who needs to be in this conversation. Someone who's been trying to find their voice in a world that keeps trying to silence it. And I mean, reach out to me because I do agree. I have events that do cost very little, but I also have a lot more that are free. I have things that I do, webinars where I'm looking for speakers, where I'm looking for collaborations. I'm looking for people for us to help because if us small people come together and build up a community, we're good. 1,000 small people, that's an army. That's an army of a community that will build, and for the right reasons. And if you are someone who's ready to build, not compete, not climb over others, not consume, but truly build something different, reach out to me. Please, let's connect. Let's create together. Let's become what we always needed. I'm already working with a couple of people who fit that category. But I mean, before this industry told us what we had to be, we knew what we wanted to be. Because at the end of the day, this movement isn't about fame, it's about freedom. It's about finding each other in the rubble and deciding that survival wasn't enough. We want healing. We want wholeness. We want home. And we're going to create it together, brick by brick by brick, by breath and by breath. And we're going to build this platform because the platform is more than just survival. It's about building a world where trauma doesn't get the last word. So again, if this episode resonated with you, please subscribe to Empowered Voices, Finding Strength in Survivors, to not only hear this podcast, Insights of a Survivor, every Friday night, every Friday p.m., 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. You also get to hear my daily challenges, my 365-day My Story, My Strength Empowerment Challenge. And also, don't miss my collab with one of those people that I said that's real. And that's why me and Mr. All Love have a show called Raw and Real every last Saturday of the month, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. And he does his equal share of work, you guys. We be on it. And he has my back just like I have his. He's one of the good ones. And every Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, catch my sister, Coach Kiss, on the Kiss Corner. She's another good one. She goes every week, no matter what she's going through. She goes on to this show and she shares a bit of who she is, her healing journey, and she gives you wisdom and guidance on how she heals. And also be sure to grab a copy of my book, A Place to Belong by Pari Jasper. It's a powerful story about a young girl who had to fight to survive a world that tried to erase her. And it's not just a book. It's a mirror. It's a weapon, a home for every survivor who's ever felt invisible. And you can find that book on Amazon. And I'll be having it on my website soon, a digital copy. I'll let you know when. All of the links to what I just said will be in the description below. Just click on one of them, click on all of them, click on everything, see what you need to see. Just click, join, because your story does not end in pain and it begins in power. Until next time, keep rising, keep speaking, keep building, and never, ever, ever give up. You guys have a good night.
Heard you looking for a hero. Well, look up. No more running from the bad guy. I'ma stare him in the eye like, what's up? I know the journey got hard for a minute, but I ain't giving this up. Yeah, I got the heart of a champion. If I get knocked down, I get